Storytelling is important in business just like it's important in real life. Story is important because it's how we make sense of the world around us. Storytelling is essential. Storytelling is what bonds us. Stories are how we make sense of the world. Every single human being constructs their entire world with story. Stories resonate with us. Without story, we can't communicate and we can't understand. Even a loving embrace and a hug that gives you a deep, warm feeling is giving you a deep, warm feeling because you're putting that into a story in your mind about what that means to you. Stories connect in a way unlike any other information. You will communicate in a way that people not only understand, but care about. A data sheet or a PowerPoint presentation that isn't fueled by story is nothing to care about. A great story affects you. A great story affects you. A storyteller will know that their message is connecting with an audience because that audience will lean in. And when people lean in, they want to know more, they want to engage, and they want to act. Storytelling is important in business just like it's important in real life. Stories are literally the bridge between people. The bridge between people. Storytelling is what bonds us. Stories are literally the bridge. Stories are how we make sense of the world. Hello and welcome. It's great to have you here today. Storytelling is about connecting people and ideas together. And if business is about anything, it's about connecting your ideas to your potential customers. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to be talking about business storytelling, and I'm going to teach you how to unlock storytelling for your success. Now, storytelling is universal, but there's a big problem with trying to learn it. And that is that it can be a little bit confusing. If you've spent more than 5 minutes trying to figure out what storytelling is, you'll probably have come across some of these frameworks. I am going to teach you how to do business storytelling without having to learn specialist, confusing entertainment frameworks. We won't be talking about the hero's journey or the 7 types of story today. You get the point. You know that storytelling can help, but it's hard to find time to become a master storyteller, right? And you shouldn't have to be spending your time doing that. You've got a business to run. You're busy. You've got a lot of things on your plate. Yet you also want to tap into this power. It's so powerful. It's how we perceive the world. It's how we make sense of our own worlds. It's how we make it through our day. And of course, it's how we tell our loved ones and our friends at the end of the day what our day was all about. And of course, in business, it's just the same. The stories you're telling might be a bit different, but it's fundamentally the same thing. So who is today for? Well, it's for 2 sets of people. If you're completely new to this space, you're going to walk away from today with some really useful, simple techniques that you can apply and take out into your business every single day. Now, if you have a bit of experience in the space, fantastic. You'll have a bit of a head start, but what we're going to show you is by using those simple, accessible frameworks, how to bring a repeatability to your storytelling, to your business storytelling. Now, like many of you, I once thought that storytelling was reserved for movies, books, and theater. And whilst I've always appreciated great stories and storytelling, my career was built through science and technology. And I didn't think that stories had a lot to do with those areas at all. Now, I did end up discovering through my journey, through my story and my experiences, that actually Stories prop up everything in business. Data, a chart is nothing if there's not a story behind it. And likewise, a story is nothing if it's not communicating something tangible in the world. Storytelling obviously helps with things like marketing and communications. It helps with sales. It helps with partner relationships. It helps with internal alignment. It helps across the board. So by participating today and walking away with these techniques, you are going to be able to start to bring that power into your business. Now, I mentioned my career. My mother was a scientist. This is a big influence on that science and technology vibe. She encouraged me and my sisters to seek facts, data, and the truth. But she was also a poet and an author, bringing this kind of left brain, right brain kind of vibe to my upbringing. And my father reinforced that. An electrical engineer by trade who enjoyed a sales and marketing career in high tech that spanned over 5 decades. He inadvertently indoctrinated me into the world of technology, Intel specifically originally, and I grew up surrounded by tales of Silicon Valley. If you want some really fun behind the scenes tales of the 1980s in Silicon Valley with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all of the others, I can't recommend this book enough. It's an absolutely fantastic read. Now, speaking of books, one of my earliest memories and fondest memories was being on the sofa, curled up with my father and one of my sisters as my father read The Lord of the Rings to us. In fact, this is the actual copy, my mother's 1969 edition, the first time that all the books of The Lord of the Rings were published in one single edition. So I took this love of science and creativity and technology, and I started a career at Intel's marketing department. And in fact, this photo was way back 20 years ago. This was in 2002 at a Counter-Strike gaming conference event that I helped organize at the Science Museum in London. And any Red Dwarf fans in the audience today will recognize Rimmer. That's right. This is Rimmer from Red Dwarf. So in those early days of my career, I thought storytelling was best suited for marketing or presentations, ad campaigns, messaging, that kind of stuff. That's even when I was thinking about it explicitly. But I didn't see it explicitly as being something to be used across the business, even though I was using it in my business. In one early instance, for example, I created a superhero theme for a channel partner campaign at Intel, and the fun continued at Microsoft to the point where eventually those efforts led to me being internally recruited as chief storyteller for Microsoft Dynamics. Wow, I thought it's official. I was actually going to get paid for storytelling. My 2 science fiction novels, which still need a little bit of work, but are complete, they can wait for the time being. This journey led me to discover a business secret, a big business secret. And that's exactly what I'm going to be able to share with you today. It's not about entertainment storytelling at all. Business storytelling may be related to entertainment storytelling, but it's different. And I'm going to share with you why it's different and how to use it. Now, in those early days of my career, mentor and friend of mine, Nick Drew, said to me, always find out if somebody else has invented the wheel because it'll save you time, effort, and energy. In other words, I took that learning into this new role, this chief storyteller role, and I tried to find some existing wheels. But the only wheels I could find were wheels like this: the hero's journey, 10, 12, sometimes even a whopping 17 steps. Phrases like rising and falling action, character arc, just too much of a heavy lift for busy professionals. And no matter how many rabbit holes I went down, I just couldn't find a storytelling wheel that worked for the application, the repeatable application of storytelling in business. Now, those wheels just weren't rolling, so I took on the role as a story interpreter, kind of holding on to storytelling on one side and the business on the other, and doing my best to have the business benefit from storytelling. And during that time, I was invited to coach across Microsoft and help other teams. And in fact, was even in a marketing training or two talking about storytelling for the whole of the organization. And this inspired me. Wow, this is really fun. I love helping all these teams. I could help even more. I could help other companies. And it gave me that dream. But I was tied to a young family and some golden handcuffs. And it was really hard to break free. I'm sure you've experienced similar situations. Well, all of that changed on July the 19th, 2015. I won't go into the details of this sad story, but both my parents were killed in a car crash, and it was an incredibly difficult time for me and my sisters and our whole family. And just know that if you're going through grief, or anybody that you know is, you're not alone. And I actually have a bunch of resources if that's something I could help with. But anyway, like I said, this became a massive turning point in my life. And behind this backdrop of profound grief, I left Microsoft. What on earth was I thinking? Well, what I was thinking was I could honor my parents in the best way I knew how, taking all of that experience in science and technology and creativity to help others, to help other business people find success through storytelling. And remember that big misconception of storytelling, that it's for children, movies and books, and that's it. It's not. Those are just artifacts of what storytelling is really all about. And if some artifacts can be used for pure entertainment, some can be used for business engagement. And business is all about value and communicating value. And guess what? So were stories. Originally, those stories of value were things like which berries were poisonous, where was the shelter. But we told the stories, and the tribes that told the stories the most effectively, that communicated the most effectively, were the ones that survived, because they knew which berries were edible and where the lions were hiding, right? So the ones that survived, evolution did its job, and survival of the best storytellers was led to what you and I know today as storytelling, that has been co-opted for entertainment purposes for obvious reasons, because it's how our brain works. When we hear a story, we're actually simulating that experience in our brains. It's the next best thing to doing it ourselves. I love this Jonathan Gottschall quote, that fiction is an ancient virtual reality technology that specializes in solving human problems. That is storytelling. It's why we tell stories. It's how stories affect us. Now, my mother's earliest memory was her grandfather, my great-grandfather, under pain of death, should their mother ever find out, my gran, took my mum and her two sisters down to his smithy. My mum was only 5 years old. He helped them lift up the hot horseshoe, stick it into the fire, put it on the anvil, have the hammer crash down, sparks flew, thrust it into the water to temper it, steam filled the air. It was an intense forging experience. And I want to help you forge stories. And so what I've done is I've created the anvil, the tongs, and you just have to bring with you the fire and the passion, and you can work on creating your horseshoe, the stories that you want to tell. And you don't have to worry about all of the pieces to make it work, because I've invented those for you. So these are really about storytelling tools for business, right? Simple, repeatable tools that you can use every single day to help your business stand out from the crowd. And it's really no surprise when you harness the power of storytelling, because our brains are wired for it. Our society is built on it. And that is why I've come up with these secrets to share with you today. So what are the secrets? Well, one false belief I've heard is that storytelling may be a powerful way to communicate. It may be entertaining, but it's just too hard to apply in business. Every time I try to use a hero's journey in my marketing or my presentations, it's just too complicated and too much lift. That leads to secret number one. It's a quick and easy storytelling hack to help you drive that type of positive storytelling in your business without having to learn all that complexity. Now, another false belief I've heard is that I'm sold on storytelling, but I don't know how to bring the emotions into it. And that leads us to this secret number two, how to bring heart into your business stories in, again, a simple and repeatable manner. Now, let's talk about secret number one. Get out your pen and paper and take some notes, because it's going to be fun. So remember, I wanted to focus on business storytelling, not just kind of applying entertainment storytelling to business. And remember, I couldn't find any kind of how-tos on how to do that. The wheels weren't rolling. I couldn't find that wheel. Well, luckily for you, all that experience has led to me unlocking this absolutely fantastic framework that we've developed. And I'm so excited to share it with you. You ready for it? This is going to change your life when it comes to how you tell stories. And it's going to be super easy for you to remember. It's going to take all that practice. Every time you use it, you're going to get better and better at it. So here it is. It's our first framework, the 3D framework. It's practical, it's straightforward. It helps you see your story from all angles. I drew inspiration from Nike's Just Do It. because they pack so much into those 3 words. It triggers so much in our brains when we hear that. It'll trigger something different for you. For me, I like swimming. I went swimming this morning. But when I hear Just Do It, it's a little bit different to when Michael Phelps, a swimmer, but a very different type of swimmer, when he hears it, he's thinking about his next gold medal, or he was at one point. I'm thinking about just making sure I get up and go and have some exercise and be healthy. But they pack so much into that. They trigger this story making in our brain. And I took inspiration from that with our 3D framework, because it's a great way to get away from all of that complexity of the entertainment storytelling frameworks with just 3 things: desire, difficulty, denouement. We'll get to that fancy French word in a second. So what about this packing things in? Well, desire. Desire isn't something that just exists randomly in the world. People have desire, a hero, if you will. Your audience, your customers have a desire. What is that? People want something, right? What is it that they want? Not what you want to sell them, but what is it they want? What are they trying to achieve? What is this transformation they're trying to go through? What do they want? Now, wouldn't it be nice if we got everything that we wanted in life? Great. Yeah, it would be, right? But something always seems to be standing in the way. That's difficulty. No matter what we want, there's always something standing in the way. It could be something relatively simple. You're hungry. You want some lunch. You have to go and see if there's any food in the fridge, or if you remember to bring your lunch to work. If not, you have to figure out where you're going to go. Is it raining? Do you need a jacket? Do you need to get in the car? These are all things that can be standing in your way of just that simple thing of getting your lunch, right? Satisfying that hunger, being fed. Now, think about your customers. Think about your prospects, right? Think about all the things that could stand in their way of getting what they want. And that's where denouement comes in. It's how you help them untangle that knot. And that is the literal French translation or English translation of the French. Denouement means the untangling of the knot. This isn't just about conclusion. This isn't just about it's our product, right? This is about how your audience untangled that knot, how they untangled the difficulty to get to their desire, to achieve that desire. It can be the approach they use, any processes they use, your product, other people's products. It could be ISO standards. What is it? How did they go through this process? What was the decision-making process that they used? What did they learn along the way? Remember, you are simulating this. When you get all of this valuable content, you are able to then tell a story that simulates this in people's minds. And when you get that story simulated in somebody else's mind, what they wanted, what the problems were, how they went through the process, and how they ultimately solved it, what they learned and what the outcomes were, you have now put that in your audience's brain, whether that is an internal manager that you're trying to bring along to get investment with an internal project that you want to do for a campaign, or it's a customer themselves and getting them to actually choose your company. Now, it should come as no surprise. We use this all day, every day in our own business. We also use it with our clients. Here is an example of some landing page copy that uses the 3D framework. See, stories big and small can be used with this. This is a simple paragraph of information above the fold on one of the websites of one of the biggest financial firms in the world. And we also use it for video. This is a fun one. This is about a 30-second video ad that we created for a client. And see if you can spot what the desire is, what the difficulty is, and what the denouement is. Okay, here we go.
Handling sensitive credit reporting data is stressful and complicated. Compliance and security issues are not trivial, and I didn't know that, for example, we can't share a credit report with the applicant or any other third party. CRS helps us navigate these waters, and now we move much more confidently.
What was the desire? Handling credit data. Now, that could be for any number of reasons. And we've got a 30-second ad we're talking about here, so we have to be really brief, but it's handling credit data. That's what the audience is seeking to do. And we knew that based on our work with CRS. Now, what's the difficulty? What were some of the things you heard from a difficulty perspective there? Well, compliance, for example, or only being able to use certain types of credit data for certain types of purposes. right? That was some of the difficulty. And then how do they untangle that? Their relationship with CRS, who had the tools and the insights and the expertise to help navigate through this process to ultimately untangle that knot. So here you see that when you use this framework, whether it's a paragraph of text on a website or a video that you go through that whole production process for, you are still relying on this simplicity of this framework. And in doing so, unlocking the power of storytelling in the communication that you are putting together. So that's absolutely fantastic. And, you know, again, there's so much packed in here. You take that desire, that difficulty, the denouement, and you start to pull on it. Just like, think about an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg's poking through the top of the water. There's always a bunch of stuff underneath it. Okay. And so do your research, do your due diligence, and figure that stuff out. And then you'll have it, everything you need. And the beauty is it's also a basic story sequence. That desire, difficulty, denouement, you can tell it in that flow and you'll be telling stories in no time. Are there more nuanced and complicated ways that you maybe would approach it if you were doing a presentation or you were coming up with a plan to bring one of your leadership team on side with an idea that you have? Yeah. And in fact, we actually have some other frameworks that will help you take things even further. But 3D is the place to start. Okay. So fantastic. We've got the story structure down. We're going to be cranking out some stories. What about those emotions? How do we make people feel? What process did we go through, for example, with that video? What did we use? Is there a tool that we used? Of course there is. If you've ever heard about human decision making, the process that humans go through, you might have heard the fact that emotions are an essential ingredient. We actually make decisions based on our emotions and then justify based on data. And so if you can understand this with your customers, you can move people to buy from you. They're an essential ingredient in moving people to act, to connect with you. And we need to feel confident in creating stories with an emotional punch, right? And it's this balance between the head and the heart. Now, you might get this by going through the detailed hero's journey, yet that, again, is something that's going to be just too much of a heavy-handed sledgehammer to crack a nut, if you will, for what you're trying to do when it comes to bringing emotions into your business. Now, I was lucky enough that my grandmother lived in the same village as my parents in her twilight years. This meant that I got to see her on my visits back from university. Now, I struggled at university. Maybe it's my bright, shiny object syndrome. Maybe it was my ADHD and dyslexia. Either way, I found university pretty tough. So I remember this one day on a visit back home to see my gran for a cup of tea. Ain't no party like my nana's tea party. Some of you might get the Flight of the Conchords reference here. If you don't, check it out. The influence that these guys have had on all sorts of different entertainment is quite profound, including the latest from that crew, which is Our Flag Means Death, is a new one that's out on HBO. Anyway, my gran said, Matthew, if degrees were easy, they would hand them out after A-levels, the last couple of years of school, pre-university school in the UK, kind of last 2 years of high school, if you will. Now, that's true. They would, right? And it was during those early days of COVID that that it hit me from an emotional perspective. You know, we were doing the same with everybody to kind of keep calm and carry on. And I felt a framework coming on. Okay, you ready for what that framework is? Right? The simple, easy, repeatable way to bring your emotions into your stories. Okay, so emotions will lead to empathy, and empathy will lead to engagement, and you get there by using this framework. If you understand what moves people, you can craft your messaging that result in that action. With meet and meeting your customers where they are, the story meet method means you don't need to worry about all those steps of the hero's journey. So what do these stand for? Morals, essential emotions, and truth. Morals could also include values. These are perspectives on the good and the bad, right? This is what your audience holds as being important for a decision-making process. What is right? What is wrong? What can they do? What can't they do? Essential emotions are the feelings that exist for that particular audience around this particular topic. In fact, around this particular difficulty and how to untangle that. Is it fear? Is it frustration? Is it inspiration? Is it hope? What is the emotion that is most relevant in this case? And it will vary from audience to audience and from topic to topic, and also will change over time. So this is something that you can keep bringing back and keep using time and time again. Now, what about truths? Things are just a certain way sometimes, right? There are certain regulations that exist in the world. There are laws. There are certain technologies. There's shifts and changes in technologies. If you're building an electric car, you need somewhere to charge it, right? There are truths within a topic. What are those truths? What does your audience hold dear and central to their decision making, regardless of what the topic is? And that's it. Meet your customers where they are with the story meet method. Again, not rocket science, but last I checked, nobody had put something as simple together as this to help you stay focused on what those emotions are. Now, I do recommend going and doing research in the topic, go do a search for emotions in decision making, search for the different types of emotions. You can use that raw material to help inspire you to figure out what's right for your particular message. It's exactly what we do. And the meet method will help you stay on track with what that is and encourage you to make sure that you're looking at these different areas, because each of these different areas has the opportunity to extract nuances that could be really powerful in the stories you tell, so that the stories you tell are really powerful. Now, this all accrues to why we're launching the Storytelling for Action program. Are you ready for it? Here it is. Okay. So this is the Storytelling for Action playbook. It is 300. There's over 300 hacks. We've got 14 workflows. All of what we've covered today is covered in the next click down in quite a lot of detail. And ultimately, what we're seeking to do with this is to give you the playbook. So today you've taken something away, you're ready to go, and start applying it. Fantastic. This will take you to the next level. And we go in within the playbook itself. We have guidance along each of the steps and the worksheets and the opportunity for you to then complete your own. We even have how to create a strategic narrative within that. That's something we didn't touch on today. We touched on the basics of storytelling, there's basic story structures and the basics of bringing emotions into your storytelling. Within the Storytelling for Action playbook, we also lead you through how to create a strategic narrative as well. Now, you can be one of the first people to get access to Storytelling for Action as soon as it's ready. In fact, we've got some news coming really soon on that front. And it's all you need to start applying storytelling in business. 6 playbooks, a 12-part course covering all the elements of our frameworks, templates to use with your team, lifetime access to our virtual clinic, and a bonus customer advocacy pack. Our mission is to help you harness the power of storytelling for business without relying on entertainment frameworks. It's for you if you're an entrepreneur, a marketer, or an executive looking to get attention, be heard, and sell more. Especially if you're in the technology industry, you're going to find this incredibly helpful to lead you through the process of figuring out what to put in your stories and how to sequence those stories out. Fantastic. So few minutes here for Q&A to see if we've got any interesting questions. So let's go ahead and check this out. Have a look at the questions that are coming up. Why don't you have heroes or things like that in your frameworks? Well, so do you remember what I said about the having a lot packed in with the 3D framework, desire? That you don't have desire without a person. So desire is going to help you. Focusing on desire is going to help you focus on the person. Think about the person. Think about the properties, the what they're like, who they are. Is going to give you all of that, and without having to think about a hero, for example. And I wanted to keep it really simple. If you think, as soon as you start mentioning heroes and villains, you start to think about rising and falling action, journey and return, deepest, darkest night, all this stuff with entertainment frameworks that has been developed over centuries, quite frankly, and then codified over the past 100 years or so with folks like Joseph Campbell. They're looking at it to create entertainment, to create a book, to create a film. And the fact there's $100 billion entertainment industry is testament to the power of storytelling. But if that's where you're looking to help your business, you're looking in the wrong place. And so that's exactly why I've come up with all this stuff for you. Okay. And half past the hour here. We're trying to do a bit of a quicker one today. So let's see. You mentioned movies and films a lot for somebody who says businesses don't need that approach. I use metaphors all the time, a bit of a metaphor junkie. And metaphors actually are a type of micro story. They press the same buttons in our brain as storytelling does, kind of like Nike's Just Do It, for example. I like to use movies and films and entertainment as an example, right? As a metaphor, without then talking about how to create one using an entertainment framework. So yes, you may have heard one of these streams where I talk about the Wizard of Oz, right? And there's a reason for that. But also you're not creating the Wizard of Oz, so you don't have to worry about that level of detail. In fact, for the next one, we'll probably do a deep dive on the narrative work as well. So that will be really fun. Brilliant. Okay. So thank you so much for stopping by. You can get a hold of us through these resources, but remember, sign up, gonarrative.com/SFA, stands for Storytelling for Action. Not only will you be the first to hear about this, but you'll also get the bonus of being added to our regular newsletter. And super excited to have you sign up and to hear from you and to have you benefit from Storytelling for Action and being able to use storytelling in your business. Thank you so much for stopping by. Wishing you an absolutely fantastic day.